Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Welcome to the show, everybody. On today's show, we're going to be taking a look inside of your body to the microbiome and try to help you understand what is actually going on inside of you that may be causing disease or causing wellness, and give you some understanding and some wisdom about it so you can work with your body in an extraordinary way and create wellness in your life. There are trillions and trillions of microorganisms that inhabit the healthy and small and large intestines that are your friends. And they've been co-creating with humans since the beginning of time. And you don't really know them because they're invisible. They're hard to see with the human eye, but there's trillions of them. But we depend on these little microbes, or minions as I like to call them, for our health and well-being, but they depend on us for survival. And I love them because they have made me well. They showed me exactly what was going on inside of me that was causing the disease, and they helped me to rectify that. And it was an amazing journey for me, and it changed every part of my life, every part, and continues to do so. I thought it would kind of end after a few years, but 16 years later, I am still learning about this vast world of microorganisms and how much they interact with our life. And you're going to be surprised at how much they create wellness in you, and also they can create disease. But it's really up to you. You're the captain of your ship. So it's really up to you to take control of your life, understand it, work with it, and really create a life that is so wonderful that you will be shocked at how good you feel. Since we have trillions of bacteria, and if we feed them properly, they will keep our immune system running strong. They digest our food. They use those indigestible, like fiber, things that we can't absorb. And, for instance, a lot of fiber that we eat has no calories, doesn't really do anything for us, but it feeds our microbiome. They love it. They grow and multiply, and then they keep us well. So that's why years ago there was a big fiber craze and how much it helped you. Well, that's because it fed your microbes, and then they helped keep your immune system running strong. But many people don't really know what to feed their microbes so they can grow and multiply, do their jobs for you. If you don't really know how to feed and care for them properly, then you don't really understand how it all works. And I'd love to help people understand that. It's really a partnership when you start to understand your little microbes. And we just don't pay enough attention to what they are doing for us each and every day. And once you start paying attention, everything starts to really shift and change in your life. A large amount of microbiome will change if you have disease. And many, many times now, and many researchers and, oh my gosh, there's so many articles out that are now linking autoimmune diseases to a shift in the gut microbiome. So first of all, let's explain, what is an autoimmune disease? There is more than 80 different types of autoimmune diseases, and they're really hard to understand. But basically, and this is a very simplified version, the immune system finds proteins and then they try to destroy them as if they were harmful foreign invaders. And the immune system is it's a very cool thing. It's so complex and interconnected with your microbiome. That it's a really important thing to try to understand how it's working so you can help yourself. For instance, your immune system will go after a pathogen like a virus and create inflammation to clear that pathogen from the body. But with an autoimmune disease, the immune system just keeps attacking these proteins in our body, and it keeps us in an elevated state of inflammation. And that's when they call it an autoimmune disease. So let's talk about inflammation. Everybody talks about wanting to get rid of inflammation, and it's true. If you have chronic inflammation, it's not a good thing. But inflammation is our body's normal response to destroying pathogens and moving them out of the body. But when inflammation gets stuck on, this is when you get into trouble and get autoimmune diseases. And most doctors will tell you to treat inflammation with anti-inflammatories, with medications such as Advil or Motrin or steroids, but they're not really addressing why the inflammation is there in the first place. If a microbiome has diminished in numbers, in essence, of good bacteria, there's not as many good bacteria, and you have like hidden allergies, infections, environmental toxins, and you're eating an inflammatory diet, and you have a lot of stress in your life, these are some of the real causes of inflammatory conditions. And if you want to cool off inflammation in your body, you must find the source. You got to figure out what it is that's causing the inflammation. And you got to treat it. It's like treating like a fire and not the smoke. Don't just try to get the smoke away. You want to treat the fire that's causing the inflammation. And most physicians are not taught to diagnose diseases by symptoms. They're mostly taught to diagnose diseases by symptoms and not by the underlying causes. And that's really what you want to do, because when I had problems, when I had different things like for instance, when I had high blood pressure and when I had diabetes, and I was like, why do I have those conditions? What is that? Why am I all of a sudden getting these things? What's causing it? And when I discovered what was causing it, I was able to fix that, and then they both went away, which is a very cool thing. If you have years of toxins, they can like accumulate in your tissues, and it reaches a kind of a tipping point where it just can't take the overload anymore. And so an autoimmune disease is a sign that your body is on high alert and it needs some help. It's basically a warning sign, a signal from your body to say something's wrong and you need to pay attention. And since your immune system is your defense against invaders, it is your army that lives inside of you and works on your behalf. And it has to really work hard to distinguish between friend and foe inside your body. And then it wants to be what I like to call your brother in arms, and it fights to keep you well. And when I started to understand that this was a 24/7 job that my immune system was doing for me, because for a while there, I thought my body had betrayed me with sickness and disease. I really did think that. And it was really just trying to get my attention. It was trying to alert me that the things that I was doing, the lifestyle that I was living, was harming me. And the only way it could get my attention was to make me sick. And when you're not aware of how to work with your body and you don't know what to do, then autoimmune diseases can occur. And your immune system gets confused and your own tissues get caught in this friendly crossfire. Your body's fighting something, an infection, a toxin, an allergen, food, stress responses, and it just somehow gets all confused and it redirects its hostile attack on your joints, your brain, your thyroid, your gut, your skin, and sometimes your whole body. It just goes berserk because it doesn't know what to do. There was a world-renowned gastroenterologist who was Dr. Alicia Fasano, and he was an expert in autoimmune diseases. And he describes one of the components that has to be present for an autoimmune disease to occur, and that is a leaky gut. And when you have a leaky gut, this means that the normally tightly knit cells of the intestines are weakened and leaky. And it allows large compounds such as proteins from food or bacteria, and they come into our bloodstream, and it makes you've got holes in your gut. And the leaky gut can occur due to a number of reasons, such as food sensitivities, gut infections, chronic stress. My daughter had this. My daughter had leaky gut, and it was a combination of things. It was a combination of stress. It was diet. There was several things, and it took us years to figure out what caused it. And many years down the road, we really figured it out. But more and more research is coming through that the microbiome plays a huge role in autoimmune diseases. And it certainly did for my daughter. And it really was addressing her gut flora that actually fixed her leaky gut. It was an amazing thing to watch. And I didn't even know at the time, I was so new to probiotic foods and cultured foods. But watching Macy heal from, she had so many food allergies. It was crazy. And her stomach hurt after she ate every single meal. And she was, she was in a lot of pain. And we started giving her cultured foods at every single meal. And that calmed down the pain in her gut. And after a few weeks, she stopped having pain in her stomach when she ate. And it was a wonderful thing because the probiotics seemed to be addressing some of the inflammation, but they also seemed to be fixing her gut lining. And they helped her digest her food because these foods are pre-digested and they're loaded with enzymes. And it was really something to watch. In a year, she didn't have any more leaky gut. She didn't have any more food allergies. And foods that she hadn't been able to eat for years suddenly didn't bother her anymore. And at the time, I didn't know why it worked. I didn't know why these cultured foods were healing her. But many years later, I've seen it help thousands of people that have had leaky gut or IBS and any type of stomach distress. And it was always working with the microbiome and adding cultured foods, probiotic foods to their diet that really changed everything. It's interesting because more and more doctors are now prescribing probiotics for autoimmune diseases. And they're actually prescribing certain strains of probiotics because some of them are more effective than others. And that's a thrilling thing to see because for years, doctors didn't really address what you ate very much, and especially for an autoimmune disease because they didn't see the correlation. But there's so much research now. It's pointing to the fact that everybody who has an autoimmune disease has some kind of gut disorder too. And Hippocrates always said all diseases begin in the gut, and I don't think he's too far off base with that. And two of the probiotics that doctors prescribe is lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. And they are two that have been really effective in helping people with any kind of autoimmune disease. And there's a lot of different strains that they use because there's many subspecies of these different bacteria. But many of these are found in cultured foods. And a lot of them are found in kefir, which I love, which really helped my daughter. And so did the cultured vegetables and the kombucha. And I teach everybody how to make these and add them to their life and become a regular part of their life. Many patients and clinics now believe that probiotics are really helpful to migrate the signs and symptoms of the disease by restoring the balance to the gut and the functions of the microbes in the gut. Because if they can't do their jobs, they can't do their regular jobs, and they certainly can't help with the inflammation that's in their gut. It was interesting. When I had diabetes, I remember that when I had kefir, it started to go away, and it went away in about 3 weeks. And I was so surprised by that. But I remember feeling, I felt a difference all over my whole body. I was less achy. I had joint pain that had gone away. And I think there had been a lot of inflammation in my body that showed up in my joints, in tiredness. There was a lot of just overall fatigue. And it all seemed to get alleviated after about 3 weeks of having kefir. And then my blood sugars normalized. And it was really an interesting thing. They've done a lot of research on that now, how that's a really important thing for people if they are pre-diabetic or diabetic, to really check out their gut flora and to see what's going on in there. Because 9 times out of 10, they've got a lot of inflammation. They've got some digestive issues. And kefir is wonderful for that. I've seen it help so many people that have had diabetes or pre-diabetic. And actually, I just helped a family member that got diagnosed with it, and within 2 weeks, her blood sugar numbers came back into a normal range. And it was just with her diet and adding cultured foods to her diet, and I helped her, and I just told her what I did when I had it, and exact same thing that happened to me happened to her. It's very interesting, and I've seen that again and again and again, not just with just IBS, leaky gut, food allergies. There's a lot of different things that your microbiome addresses. And people who have IBS or rheumatoid arthritis once they start fixing their gut and paying attention, I've seen so many people's symptoms go away or get better. It wasn't too long ago, I had just had another woman who posted on my Facebook page saying, Dear Donna, since I've been on a rich probiotic diet, I have managed my thyroid disease and gone on my digestive issues unless I eat something I'm sensitive to. I've discovered probiotics from you, Donna, at Cultured Food Life, and I'm very grateful and thank you for what you've done because my symptoms are gone and I feel so much better. I wish you guys could read some of the emails I get. They're pretty amazing, and it would make you a believer because there's so many people that send me letters, and I post a lot of them that they send me pictures and tell me that I can share it, and it's on my Lives Touch page at culturedfoodlife.com. And those stories are really meaningful. And I get so many more than even that are on that page, but there's, quite a few on there. And anything from people to kids to dogs. It's an amazing thing to see how these probiotic foods help so many people. Autoimmune conditions are multifaceted and there's really no quick fix for them. But that's why we really need to talk about our gut. We all want a quick fix and a pill that fixes what ails us. And that's what, conventional medicine does a lot. But when you just try to mask the symptom, your disease is really your body's cry for help. And listening to that cry for help will dramatically change your life if you change some of your lifestyle choices. There's one of my favorite doctors. He's an MD and he's a functional medicine doctor. His name is Dr. Mark Hyman. And he's wonderful. He himself had some autoimmune diseases that really made him sick, that really made him take a look at his life as a doctor. And he started to really change how he treated his patients because of his own illness. And he really had a lot of chronic inflammation. And I believe it was from mercury poisoning that he got. And he had to really dive deep to figure out what was causing his symptoms. And he not only cured himself from this chronic diseases that he had, but he's helped thousands of other people. And I love some of his recommendations. He has some really good recommendations for autoimmune diseases. And the number one thing that he suggests is to fix your gut. He said it was crucial in helping with detoxifying from heavy metals, which many of us have in our bodies. And I myself have done this quite effectively, eating tons of probiotic food because 50% of your detoxification is done in your gut, not just your liver. And when you eat lots of probiotic foods that I teach people how to make, and also prebiotic foods, which are food for the bacteria that make them grow and multiply, it really allows your body to clear the debris, eliminate it, and establish a new balanced system in your body. That's number one thing I've seen across the board, and he puts that as his number one thing. The other thing he suggests is check for hidden infections, yeast, viruses, bacteria, Lyme's disease, and with the help of a doctor, and treat those diseases because those have been, I've seen them do some devastating things when you have Lyme's disease or you have a virus that you're not even aware of. Candida is a sign that you have your gut bacteria out of whack with too many antibiotics and an unhealthy lifestyle. And really, the best way to bring Candida into balance is to eat a lot of probiotic foods or a lot of probiotics in general, because the more good bacteria you have, the Candida has to go over into the corner and stay where it's supposed to stay. It's there for a reason. We actually need Candida, little tiny amounts in our body. But you really need to have lots of good bacteria so that it doesn't grow out of its bounds, because it can spread into the sinuses, it can spread throughout the body, and it can make a Candida systemic infection that's horrible, and you won't like it. And it will make you sick and you won't know what's wrong. And so lots of times people I have a problem with Candida. They don't know it. And honestly, if you will eat a lot of probiotic foods and prebiotic foods, which are fruits and vegetables, and there's specific ones that I recommend, and you can go to my website, culturedfoodlife.com, put in prebiotics, and I have a list of the really, really good ones for you. But if you will eat that, it will help Candida go back to its rightful place. Because, for instance, let me explain something. If you take an antibiotic, you're killing all the good and all the bad bacteria. So Candida has all this room all of a sudden in your gut to spread out and grow. So it is very opportunistic, and it just takes over, spreads over in your gut like crazy. And then you've got real problems because it's not meant to do that. What's meant to happen is you have a large amount of bacteria there that is supposed to abide and house all of your good guys that fight pathogens. And when it's not there anymore, then the yeast takes over and it becomes a mess. And so just adding these back to your diet and making your microbiome rich and full of good guys takes care of that problem. The other thing that Dr. Mark Hyman talks about is getting checked for heavy metal toxicities. Mercury and other metals can cause autoimmunity diseases, and it also is a very common problem these days and one that goes unnoticed until we get symptoms. And it can, stay in the body for a long time because it stores itself away, and it really doesn't make itself known until you get other toxins that get to too many high levels in your body, and the body can't detoxify from all of it. And so if it's a real problem, it can just kind of start to creep up on you. And again, I have seen people when they've healed themselves from heavy metals, all their symptoms vanish and they feel better than they ever have before. There are certain nutrients that you need too that will help you if you have autoimmune diseases. Vitamin C is so important, and that's so abundant in cultured foods. There's so much in cultured vegetables and in kefir. It'll help you so much because that vitamin C is something our body needs all the time to keep our immune system running strong and keep our adrenals doing well every day. And it doesn't stay in the body. You can't manufacture vitamin C. You have to ingest it. And so it's really important that you get a lot of vitamin C and in natural forms. Sometimes the synthetic forms can cause problems with the kidneys, so you want to be careful of that. And all of these probiotic foods that I teach you to eat are rich in that. And they have a lot of help for you, and they're delicious, and you can eat them throughout the day or once a day even. It is a huge help to your body. Vitamin D also is important because that helps calm your immune system and give you a nice response to all of the hormones and the receptors in your body that are needing these extra vitamins and nutrients. You got to have vitamin D in there to really keep things moving well. There's a lot of healing in that. The other thing that's really important is exercise regularly. It's just, guys, it's so important. Your microbiome even needs it. Everything works better when you exercise, even if it's just a little bit. It makes a huge difference. Our bodies were meant to move. And if you like yoga, if you like walking, if you like weightlifting, whatever it is that you do something to move your body because it's just naturally meant to do that. And it will help the healing process. You don't have to go run 5 miles, but even taking a walk or doing some yoga, it just makes such a difference. Deep breathing is another thing, or massage. Deep breathing is wonderful, guys. We need more oxygen, and I do regularly deep breathing exercises because they help me so much. Oxygenating my body is something that I have been very surprised that has made a huge difference in how I feel every day. And I have this little thing that I do in the mornings and sometimes at night, and it doesn't take me but like a minute or two, but boy, does it make a difference. And whenever I have any kind of a stress response, I will always do a deep breathing to get my body to calm down so that I won't overreact to something. And it has made a huge difference. And, meditation is fantastic. It is one of the biggest tools in my life that I do. I do it twice a day now because it helps me so much. I never thought I would like meditation either. And I can't believe what it has done for my life. It has made such a difference. I do in the morning and at night. And I don't spend a huge amount of time, but it took me forever to calm down my brain because my brain was going 100 miles an hour. And when I started to learn to meditate, and basically it's like surrendering, it's like a surrendering to, there's so much noise in our lives. There's so much things going on around on the outside of our lives that we can't control. And it can be scary and it can be overwhelming and it can just trigger us all the time. But meditation has taught me how to harness the power of quieting my mind and stopping those crazy runaway thoughts that I have sometimes. And guys, this made such a difference in my life. I can't even, I really need to talk more about it because I think it's the single most important thing that I have learned to do in these last few years of my life. And it took me a while to calm it down, but it is making all the difference for me. And I highly recommend it because your body makes its own pharmaceuticals. And when you have an emotional response to something, it signals chemicals that your body makes in your brain, just like drugs. And they can calm you down or they can make you create disease and stress. Your body's taking signals from your mind too. And when you learn to control the power of those thoughts, and even if it's just for a few minutes a day, boy, guys, it calms down everything in your body. And your body is just a pharmacy inside of you that you're not aware of. And it has made a huge difference in my life. And Dr. Mark Hyman talks about that too, that's one of his favorite things to do. Don't underestimate the healing crisis that can occur when you start to heal. That's really important because as the body releases toxins that need to be eliminated from your body, you sometimes will feel worse. I know that I did. And the medical term is a Herkimer reaction because as pathogens die, they leave off chemical toxins that can feel like disease. And we mostly take for granted how our bodies heal us. But healing crisis is something that is a good thing, but it can be a little bad in the beginning, especially when you're taking cultured foods and you're ingesting a lot of good probiotics. They tend to want to go inside of you and clean house. They want to go kill pathogens, and those pathogens don't die easily. They don't like it, and they leave off toxins when they die. So that can happen. Sometimes you need to go slowly and listen to your body, be gentle with it, because as you heal, if you have a lot of detoxification to do, it can be a little bit of what I call a crisis. And I have a whole article I wrote on that called The Healing Crisis in Cultured Foods, and that's on my website at culturedfoodlife.com. And I highly recommend you read that because it'll help you understand what's happening. Because a lot of people will give up and think they're getting worse, but they're actually getting better. They're just detoxing. And it usually is short-lived. It usually doesn't last very long. But things don't happen overnight. We need time to heal, and our microbiome needs time to change and grow. And it doesn't take very long, but you won't believe how good your body is designed to feel. And in these days ahead of our lives, I mean, so much is changing, guys. We're starting to understand things that we've never done before, how our mind and stress affects our bodies, how the foods that we eat, the exercise that we do, the way that we live our lives, all of that is tied together. All of it is something that we need to pay attention to. And here's the deal. When you start to pay attention to it and you start to feel better, it just opens up your heart and you want to help everybody. Because when you don't feel good, you don't want to help anybody because you're just getting through your days. You're just surviving. But when I started to feel good, I couldn't believe how sweet the birds sang, how green the grass was. I can remember going to the grocery store and wanting to hug the guy that did my groceries, that sacked my bags. And I had never felt like that in my life. I was so grateful to be alive. I felt so good. And it put a joy in me that I could not control. I still can't control it. And it's how I wound up here doing a podcast and having a website and teaching classes and writing books. I never in a million years thought I'd do anything like that. I skipped English in high school, guys. My sister helped me do my homework. It was bad. I didn't care. And I never in a million years thought I would ever want to be an author, ever. But down inside of me, covered up by sickness and disease, were treasures, hidden treasures that were laying there dormant because I didn't feel good, because I was sick. And when I unearthed them and I started to feel good and I started to heal my body, my whole life changed. Suddenly I wanted to write stories and help people, and I couldn't stop myself. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I don't even know why I ever started blogging and writing a book. it just came out of me, and it came from this place in my soul where I was so grateful. I was so grateful that I had gotten so sick and that the answer to my prayers came in a crazy jar that sat on my counter that was filled with these crazy microorganisms that healed me and made me well. Who in the world has that story ever happened to them? But they did. They made me well, and now they still sit on my counter 15 years later. Every single day I eat them. I love them because they changed my life. They were my invisible angels. They worked on my behalf all day long, even when I'm sleeping, to help me stay well. And I hope that they will help you too. I know they will help you. And if you just hang out with me, I'll convince you sooner or later, because that's what happens. Sooner or later, I'll wear you down, because you and I are 100 trillion bacteria. And when you harness that power and you learn about how your body works, it changes everything. And that is why I'm here. It is from a grateful heart, and I love what I do, and I love the people I help. And I don't see you, but I feel you, and I appreciate you, and I thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to my podcast. It means the world to me, but I hope that it changes your life. You guys have a wonderful week, and thanks again. I love your guts, quite literally.